Tonight, no? Partying tonight. No, at 10 or something. Okay, Rabbi Isai. So I mentioned yesterday a raya from a sulam. I shouldn't have done that because we didn't yet learn the sugya of sulam. The sugya of ladder is a very difficult sugya. And the truth is, now that I look at the Mishnah Berurah, yesterday we mentioned that from the Shulchan Aruch, when it talks about a ladder, it's a raya klape, those shilos of things that are removed from the actual muksa. And then when you have something which is removed from the muksa, but if its function is to help the muksa, its function, for example, we spoke about a ladder that's a painter's ladder, or a ladder which helps to fix the roofing, etc., which is used generally to do an isser. It's climbing up in order to do an isser. So we mentioned that would be a raya if you consider such a ladder to be a klishum lachta the isser. So we mentioned that such a ladder would be a raya klape many different shilas of how far removed something can be and still be considered a klishum lachta the isser. Lamaisa, it's very possible that it is a raya. It's very possible. But when you learn the sugya of sulam, you'll see that it's either Vadei Raya 2 or Vadei Raya Fakert, because there's a very complicated sugya sulam. Some learn that the case of sulam, when you look in the Mishnah Berurah, the case of ladder, it sounds like from the Mishnah Berurah that the reason you're not allowed to move around such a ladder is because when people see such a ladder, there's like a marasayin azah. The second he sees such a ladder, he automatically associates it with building, he automatically associates it with some high-level painting or something. So it could be it's a different type of a klishmach l'isser. It could be that it's something which was kol kulai screamed isser, something kol kulai screamed malacha on Shabbos, and there might have been some marasayin about this ladder, which is what generated its state of muksa. Ad kidei kach, the Mishnah Berurah says, aval sulam shebebayis, but a regular ladder in the house. So he says that's mutagamar. That's what the government. So is that a raya the other direction? No, you could say it's a raya the other direction. You have something like a ladder, and a ladder is something that is, not screaming Isser. I mean, nobody's ladder screams Isser. Even if it has paint marks on it, it doesn't scream Isser. There's nobody whose ladder doesn't have paint marks on it, right? So what's the word? Those ladders were very big type of ladders. It could be we have these types of ladders, those special types of ladders that they have, like, they come with wheels and all types of zachen and whatever. You have them in the shul sometimes. So those ladders, they scream Isser because everyone realizes that you're using them to change a light bulb or something or whatever. So those ladders, those would be a klishum malachti the Isser. But Mashen Kain, our simple ladders in the house, the Mishnah Berurah says, Sulam Shebebayis, you can move from Zabbos to Zabbos. So that would be a raya, that even though I told you yesterday that if you have a ladder that you only use it for the purpose of painting, you only use it for the purpose of knocking in nails and whatever, it's important to talk to your wives. I came home today and I was telling my wife, you guys are back? They don't hear me still? Now they hear me. Now? Yeah? Good. So it's very important to talk to your wives because sometimes it says altar b'sicha meisha, not so much, but sometimes it's important to talk to your wives because I said to my wife, I told her the whole thing about the ladder. She says, "What? What do you mean? How do you think I get the china on the high shelf? And how do you think I get all different zachen and whatever?" So she takes a ladder. I thought you don't use it. What? You step on the like that was the conversation we had. So now we tried to figure out, is it like 51%? Is it 49%? And whatever. It turns out that my ladder is not going to klishim nach the leheter. Not like I thought. You see how marriage, everything can change once you have shalom bayis. Everything. Now you hear me? What? Yeah, no, it's good. I'm saying you're good, right? I'll see what after, what's it called? After, did you guys watch Nagelbasser? These guys have no problem hearing the shir, so I don't know. It must be you guys. Akapanim, so Akapanim, it's important to talk to your wife, but Lamaisa, it's hooked for kafi, the matzav in the house. In the matzav in the house, 51% of the time is used as a klishmak l'yata, then mustama. But Akapanim, when you come to this latter case, the Mishabura's case of ladder, he's telling you that was all kafi, the lumdis that I was telling you. Let me step back. That's why I got thrown off from this. That's all kafi if there's a tzad that a ladder is considered muksa. In other words, if a ladder, maybe I'll look at a ladder as a separate entity. The climbing up is separate from the safe result of why you're climbing it up. And maybe I could look at climbing as a davar shel heter. And if I would say that, then even if 51% of the time the ladder is used in order to climb up, in order to fix nails, in order to paint the roof, et cetera, we would look at a ladder in its own entity, in its own state of the kli shel machtal leheter for the function of climbing. The function of climbing is separate for the end result of doing the painting. That's what you'd have to learn from this Mishnah Berurah. Yesterday, I told you the exact opposite. I'm telling you it's a machlekes. You look in the Aruch HaShulchan, Hitaka sounds like you do look at it as one big package deal. And you say, no, the ladder is enabling, the painting. And therefore, we don't look at it as climbing is one thing. Mishnah Berurah sounds not like that. You have to work this out. The Mitzvah Shem, when we get to Sif Yutes, we'll talk more about this. But again, I jumped the gun a little bit yesterday when I was bringing the raya from a ladder. But the concept is more important. The concept is that we're trying to figure out what's considered removed and what's considered connected to the actual issue that you're doing, so much so that it's going to be considered a kli shel machtal. For example, I saw that Rav Moshe, just to bring out this point, I saw that Rav Moshe Zechron Levracha in Chelik Chesov, Rav Moshe has a bunch of tshuvas. These tshuvas are really the tshuvas that Rabbi Badner brings in his book from Rav Moshe. And over here they printed them. And as we go through this Zman, we'll see there's something's very weird in these tshuvas. We'll see them, and sometimes they're very different than the way it's written in the book. And sometimes there's a lot of interesting things here. And so l'meichash mevoi. It's possible that these are miyuchas to Rav Moshe, but it's not so clear exactly what went on over here. I'll say it like that in a politically correct way. Again, that wasn't so politically correct. Rav Moshe over here. Where did I write this? Moshe, no, I didn't write it. No, I didn't write it down. Moshe, in Rabbi Badner's book, it's in the 9th parak in Ois Gimel. Over there, he asked Moshe about a telephone book. Is a telephone book a kli shel machtal l'yisr? Now again, I told you, a telephone book and all these things, they might have dinim of catalogs, they might have dinim of shtarei dioitis, there might be a whole different discussion that we have to deal with. And like Rabbi Spira told me yesterday after this year, it could be, he said, I said this once, it could be a shtarei dioitis, might be what's called a muksa machmas isser. There's something called a kli isser. It's a kli whose function is to do isser with, and that has its rules. Mutal tzarech gufa, mutal tzarech mekoymai, not mutar michamel itzel. That's kli shel machtal. Then you have something called the muksa machmas isser, which the cheftza is a cheftza that Chazal asered because they're afraid you're going to do an isser with it. In other words, we'll see like about laundry, about wet laundry. Chazal asered wet laundry because you're going to come to do a ma'ases chita. So they made an isser on being metaltal wet laundry. Again, laundry is a kli. It's a wonderful, just one moment, because it's a muksa machmas isser. It's a different halacha, and it's going to be aser legamri, and it'll be a real muksa. It could be, and Mitzvah Hashem will talk about this, shtarei dioitis is a chefta. The Chazal said, don't read that on Shabbos. So that might be worse. That might be go into the category of muksa machmas isser, and it might have worse halachas. I don't want to go into it right now. But my point is that they were donning in the books, in the muksa books, they're all donning a telephone book. What's a telephone book? A telephone book doesn't do the isser, right? And I know what you're asking. I think I thought you asked about the addresses, right? Address, yeah. And so that's why I wonder if there's something going on here. It all says it's a kli shel machtal leheter and it's a kli shel machtal l'yisr. It's both. It both functions and whatever. Okay, these are all things that we'll talk about. But I just want a side nukud over here. What's the cloud? They have a need on if it's a kli shel machtal l'yisr. You do an isser with a telephone book? You don't do any isser with the telephone book. What's the isser with the telephone book? What do you do with a telephone book? It gives you information, and how you do that, it enables you to go and do an isser. So you see, and they were calling this. I haven't worked this out yet, but Moshe calls this a kli shel machtal l'yisr. So you see that you could be removed from the Isser, and Afal be considered a Kli whose function is to do an Isser. Sorry? Moshe Gada says it's a Kli Shmach Isser. He says in the first, it's a Kli Shmach Isser. That's what Rabbi Badner brings. But all these things we'll talk about, but how far removed is not a simple thing. That's number one. Number two is I have a problem. I don't like starting the shir with a problem. I'm going to tell the other my problem, and then maybe we have to figure it out. I don't know. In the meantime, you should know the problem. And then we'll get back to what we want to talk about. But sorry. And I understand that, but it's not like the hammer, which is doing the Isser, and it's not even the pot, which is enabling with a cheftza to do the Isser. It's giving a yedda, and al yedei that, I go into an Isser. It's removed. It's to me, it sounds a little bit like a ladder. To me, it sounds a little bit like a ladder. In other words, a ladder is something that she is. Let's say it's a ladder that I only use for painting, and I don't mean mitzad demar sayin. I mean a regular household ladder, my ladder from yesterday before my wife told me that it's used for heter, right? So I would have heard that it's if they're considering a telephone book to be a kli shmach yasser, I could have certainly heard by a ladder. A ladder is something that I use the ladder always to enable me in this. I think it's a chaimer. I think it's a kavach chaimer. It's I think it's giving me information which enables me to do something. This thing is pashut in being mafshirt. It's doime. You can say it's a kavach chaimer. It's doime. I say one thing though. It's still not going to be ad kedei kach a computer chair or something that we'll see. We're going to get into the good stuff now, and we'll see. Okay. Tough day at the office, everybody. You'll help me out, yeah? Okay. I have them here. It is. I have a problem like this. The problem is that, oh no. Okay. No, we're good now. Okay. The problem is that, no. You gotta deal with this. She's I might as well eat. It's one thing is emes. Okay. The problem is, Rabbi say that problems like this. There's a chakira. Rabbi said, there's a chakira, a shaila in the Paiskim that what's the din of what's the lumdus of a kli shmach? Is it a form of muksa? Or is it not a form of muksa? Do I need to be facing it? I'm sorry, Rabbi. It's showing. Do I need to be facing it or not? This is that's me on that one. I'm frozen. Those guys are seeing me. I give up. Everybody's seeing me. It's good. Yeah, everyone's seeing. Okay. Akapanim, you guys better do tshuva. Why does everybody have to suffer because of you guys? Akapanim, a klish malachta the iser yesh lachkor. The chakira that we have is that when you have a klish malachta the iser, what's the lumdus of why Chazal asked the klish the iser? Is it the pshat like we keep saying gzeiras kalim? It's gzeira. Chazal said maybe like the Rambam that they or maybe a bit lax in Shmir HaMitzvahs, Shmir Shabbos, so they said, don't touch Kalim that you could do Isser with on Shabbos, because you know what's going to happen if you touch Kalim like that? It's going to come the day that you're going to use the Kalim. So they made Xeris Kalim. Now, we call it maybe Muksa, but it's not really Muksa. V'harai, it's not Muksa. Reb Shimon doesn't hold of it. V'harai, it's not Muksa. Muksa, you can never move around. Now it's V'harai, it's not Muksa. If something's in your hand and it's Muksa, you have to drop it miyad. It's Xeris Kalim. I'll show you a big nafkamina right now. Or no, maybe it's a din muksa. It's like a chatzi muksa. It's a halba muksa because it's a half a muksa. Because why would it be a half a muksa? Because you know that people have it, yes, in their das a little bit, but they don't have it in their das legamre. Klapi the isser, they certainly don't have it in their das. So you're not going to be allowed to move it to save the item because that. Unless you want to just deal it. You just deal it? You think if you put it to that side, you have a seagull? What do you need? I'll give you what you need. In that room, there's always things. In that room. In that room. You want to just recording. You want to just Akapanim. No, definitely not. No, I mean get a box from there. Oh, bring it over there. Nobody. It's all him. All right, Akapanim. Yeah. No, that's the only one. No, definitely not. Then get a box from there. That's how it is. Sorry. I have to share. Okay, I'm sorry, but for those that are watching on the Zoom, if this happens again, then I'm going to not be able to do this. I'm going to have to stop it for today because I can't do it every minute. It's beginning to share the sheet. I'm sorry. I guess I'll have to listen. What's the pshat that Chazal aser a klitcha malachta li'eser? Is it the pshat that Chazal saw the need because the people were being lax in Shmir Shabbos, and since they were lax in Shmir Shabbos, it created it's Mekata Das. The person is Mekata Das. It's a tough day. It's Mekata Das from the Torah Masur. Mashiach came from the Torah. The Torah means not Mekata Das. That means if I have a hammer. So I'm Mekata my Das from the Shima Sha'eser. What's an Afkamina? I'm not allowed to use the Shima Sha'eser either way. Afkamina is Chamal itself. Now, Afkamina is that about the whole function of a hammer, the ikar function of the hammer, is in order to be able to use the hammer to do Dvar Masura. So therefore, the Kai Gofna, that is Chamal itself. The Kai Gofna, that you're going to save the hammer. Why would a person save the hammer? He's obviously saving it for a particular function, which is to do with Machenkein when it's for Dvarim Shal Heterim. He's not a Katzeh Das. That would be like this Chatzi Moksa Kazeh. What's Nafkamina? I can tell you two big Nafkaminas. Nafkaminas, so we say Nikudis Katsai. And that's the most biggest Nafkamina. We know that there's a concept that whatever was the din at the beginning of Shabbos, that's going to be the din the rest of Shabbos. So what's the din when it comes to a Kalisha Malach? We know that if you have something that in the middle of Shabbos becomes roy, I'll give you a simple example. A person as of Erev Shabbos, he had his, dirt or something like that. He had dirt. Dirt is totally muksa. It's not mutter, not l'tzarech kufa. It's not mutter, l'tzarech mekayimai. Dirt is muksa. In the middle of Shabbos, he realizes that he needs dirt. Why? The Gemara always talks about cases that there was soya or whatnot, and he wants to take the dirt and to cover up the soya. Something like that. Or an easier example is like water that's, that came in or something like that. There's water that came in or something of that nature. So what does he want to do? He wants to take the dirt and to cover it so it shouldn't be slippery. There's oil spilled or something. He wants to take the dirt and cover it. Let's say it's a case where it wouldn't be a shadla boyne, it's inside the house or something like that. So can he take that dirt and use it? The answer is a resounding no, it's muksa. You say, what do you mean? What do you mean? Now in the middle of Shabbos, I need it. So that's the concept. And of course, that's a migutis katzai. Whatever was its status on Benish Moshes would remain the whole entire Shabbos. You won't be able to be miyachid on Shabbos. That's a simple example. So what do we say by kli shemalach l'yesir? What's the din? If you have a kli whose malacha, its function is to do iser, and then in the middle of Shabbos, it changes. What could be a good example of this? A kli shemalach l'yesir. So, let's say you have we'll use our hammer example again, right? You look at your hammer and you see that this hammer is already, it's not such a good hammer anymore. And you notice that on Erev Shabbos, you always use it to pry open the door or something, like the window over here or something like that. And they say, we ruined the hammer, Taka, by using it so many times. We mamash ruined the hammer, by doing it like that. And anyways, we just got a new hammer. So we'll just keep this over here by the window, and we're going to use this from now on just for that. That decision was made on Shabbos. That decision was made after the migutis katzai. Migutis katzai benish mashes. So it doesn't remain a kli shemalach l'yesir the whole day. What's an afkamina? Afkamina is that the hammer was outside now. It's getting rained on. You don't want it to get rusty. Can I bring in the hammer in the middle of Shabbos? And that was good for your cheshbon. Kli shemalach l'yesir. You're not allowed to bring inside. But you say, you know what? This hammer is getting rusty, and we'll just keep it over here. But that's what I'll decide. So the halacha is, do we say migutis katzai? So I would say it's totally in these two stuff. Obviously, we say it's totally in these two stuff. If you learn that the pshat is that it's exeris kalim, so then it's like any exeris chazal. We have no reason to believe that it has the dinam of muksa. The dinam of muksa are that whatever is a benish mashis applies the whole entire Shabbos. But if it's not exeris kalim, so then Chazal said a kli that does iser, that's what's iser. A kli that's iser, you're not allowed to take it in from Chanukah itself. But this kli is no longer iser because it's now you miyachid it on Shabbos. What's the difference? Why do I have a right to say that the dinam of Shabbos, klapi other chalakim of Shabbos, were hooked by benish mashis? I know the dinam of muksa were hooked by benish mashis, but I have no reason to believe other things. Mashenkin, if you learn that kli shemalach l'yesir is a quasi muksa gazette, it's a din muksa. So then whatever was at the beginning of Shabbos remains the whole Shabbos. Well, what's another nafkamin? Let's say bosses. If you take like the fire, you put it on the cup, which is held by the leichter, and it's held by the tablecloth, which is held by the table. Everything is muksa all the way down. If the only thing the table's holding up is the leichter, everything is muksa all the way down. Why? Because this is a basis. Does our basis, a dover ha'aser, and that's all the way down gets the din of the flame. All the way down. So you can't move that table, That's all on muksa. So if you learn that kli shemalach l'yesir is muksa, so then fine. If you have a hammer and the table's holding up the hammer, you have a chair holding up the hammer, or whatever, all the millions of books that we're going to talk about. So now the chair is holding up the hammer. So then the hammer, the chair, you're only going to be allowed to move. If you learn some books, so it's exeris kalim. There's a xero on that kli. So why should I have avamim in the world that I can create a basis? Basis is Allah and muksa. There's no reason to. Okay, that's the fight. Myself. It's when you look at the Rishonim and you look at the Achrayim, it's like almost beyond the shadow of a doubt that it's exeris kalim. It's almost beyond the shadow of a doubt that it'll have a din of exeris kalim. And what do I mean it'll have a din of exeris kalim? And that we shouldn't say migutis katzai. And that we shouldn't say the din of basis. But you look at the Ritva. The Ritva and Kufchav Talad on the base. I was going to bring it, but I forgot. The Ritva and Kufchav Talad. Lavmi din muksa. It's nothing to do with muksa. This isn't anything to do with muksa, right? He says, what is it? Like we keep on calling it. He says it's exeris tiltal. All it is, he says, first, it's not muksa. What's his raya? He says this. The Shita Laran says this. He says, what's the raya? The raya is Reb Shimon agrees. We know Reb Shimon disagrees with muksa. So how does Reb Shimon agree here? He says, because Reb Shimon also agrees you're not allowed to clap and dance on Shabbos because of the xera that you're going to come and make fix a musical instrument or whatever. He agrees with all the xeras of Shabbos. Why should Reb Shimon disagree with this? Another raya, there's we said a raya. Why in the world is it mutter to move it around? It should only be mutter it shouldn't be mutter to move now. These are mamish like we're speaking at the shit around the goyim in your day. Reish Seven Vav Sif Gimel. The goyim says it's Eino Machmas Moksa. When he talks about Klitsch Machli Yeser, he says it's Eino Machmas Moksa. It has nothing to do with Moksa. That's what the goyim says. The goyim says the Shevet Alevi in Chelik Yud, in Siman Tes, he said that what you find sometimes in places they call Klitsch Machli Yeser Moksa. He says it's a borrowed lashon. We call it muksa because it's a sort of muksa. I'm not really muksa. Right? Muksa is good. We can't move at all. It's a borrowed lashon. So what should be the nafkamina of all this? So nafkamina is that they're all going to tell you that it doesn't become a basis. It doesn't become a basis, right? And you take a hammer, you put it on the chair. If somehow the hammer got off the chair, now you can move around the chair for whatever you want, right? And it's not going to be needed this katsai. It's a great nafkamina. Like in the middle of Shabbos, you can change the status of your item. In the middle of Shabbos, you make a decision, you make a clear decision, and from now on, we're using this ladder only to get svarim, but you make a clear decision in the middle of Shabbos, so then it can turn into a klitsch malach l'le'ater. And that's what should come out. This is frozen. That makes no sense. It's a klitsch malach l'le'ater. Right? I mean, but they're doesn't they're frozen. Oh, they're not frozen. So, what's my problem? My problem is in Shabur and Sikot and Chav. Shabur says over here, he says, Hu adin, a klisha malachta le'isr u'le'heter, gam kein loy mekatze daite mineh. He says, a klisha malachta le'isr le'heter is loy mekatze daite mineh. He's calling it moksa. He's not just calling it moksa. It's not just a borrowed lashon. He's saying, you know why when you have a klitsch malachta le'isr and le'heter, you know why you're allowed to move it on Shabbos? Because you're not the katzed das. I wouldn't have wrote those words. You know what I would have wrote? I would have wrote, because when you have a kli that's malachta le'isr le'heter, so that's not in the Xeris Kalim. Because the Xeris Kalim was, don't use Kalim, which are usr. And this is not something which is usr, because you can do dvar mutara with it. Right? That's what I would have said. I wouldn't have said, lo mekatze daite mineh. Lo mekatze daite means that the reason why it doesn't have the isurim is because it's not within the realm of items that you take out of your das, that you only, you're not misyachis to it with its chelkei iser, because it's something that it's within the realm of kalim that you plan on using on Shabbos. More so, to add insult to injury. The Bialach over here, he says when he's coming to discuss the Pri Megadim, he's not sure what to do with this Pri Megadim about a pot. He says, "Aval derech hakli l'shtamish l'shneim." He says, if you have an item that it's derech to use for both. So he says, so who cares about roid? He says, "Minolan de mekatze daite mineh." Why should I say that he's mekatze das from him? Why should I say that he's mekatze das from the item if it's something that he could theoretically use? What's the lashon? Why would I say he's mekatze das? The Bialacha, the Mishabura, they're clearly learning here that what's conveya when we're trying to figure out if something is muksa, if klishim lakal yeser is, am I mekatze das mineh? Do I take it out of my das? Do I put it with the kelim of things that I don't use? I put it with the things that are awesome. This is not the pshat according to the Goyin and according to the Ritzah. It's not true. That's not the Shrach B'chlal. According to the Mitzvah, according to the Goyin, according to the Shita Laran, according to that Shevet HaLevi, according to all these Achrayim, and the Miri's Mefurish also, according to all of them, you would have had to write different words. When you're coming to figure out if something is a klitsch malachta le'isr, you would have to figure out and say, well, is it included in the Xeris Kalim? I can hear both ways now. I can hear Chazal asked this. Maybe they only asked something with the Xeris Kalim when it's miyuchad for Isser. When it's miyuchad for Isser, then that's something he's going to come to do Isser with. But when it's not miyuchad for Isser, it's something that it also does Heter, it also does Isser. So then it's not miyuchad for Isser. So then we don't have to worry. And Chazal didn't include it. I can hear both ways. I can hear either way. I can hear it's totally in this guy. But the words of the Mishabura, they don't read according to this Mahalach. According to this Mahalach, the Mishabura says because he's not mekatze das. When he has something, let's say all the examples that we spoke about the pot. Right? So when we were discussing yesterday the pot, that the whole meat that the Mishabru would tell you is a pot that he uses to serve and a pot that he uses to put in the fridge. If the Mishabru was talking to us in our language, he was going to say, so therefore you're not mekatze daite mineh. That's the nekuda. That's the nekuda. This has nothing to do with moksa. Right? And the Maisa, what bothers me the most is the Mishabura writes in the beginning of his Sefer in Akadama Chelik Gimel. He says, "What's one of the what's one of the reasons why you should buy my Sefer? Why should you buy my Sefer? Right? He says, because I bring the Goyim. And the Goyim is the Yasid Agadol Haroy Achriya. He's the one that you can be Saimach on. That's why. That means that by the Mishabura, the Goyim was, in the hierarchy of everything, like in a chess set, there's like a king, and there's a queen, and there's a rook, and that's right. But by the Mishabura, it was, you have the Shulchan Aruch, that's like the king, there's the Ramah, the queen. I don't know who's king and queen if you're an Ashkenazi, but there's never, and then after, what's the most expensive piece? The rook. That's right. The Goyim was a rook. The Goyim was a rook. No, the horse is one down. Is one level down. Right? I don't want to say the Prima Godim is a horse, but you understand. It's like one level down. It's like one level down, right? But it's a rook. It's a rook. It's the Goyim with the Yasin Agadol Haroy Achriya. So you tell me that the Mishabura argues on the Goyim and doesn't even bring it. It's been let me explain to you. If you have even the smallest amount of experience in Mishabura, this is impossible. This is an impossibility. It's impossible. It's impossibility for the Mishabura to bring. I'm asking the Mishabura is quoting the Chayotim over here in Samach Vav Daled. The Chayotim does go with this kind of hashkafa of Haksas Das. He goes with that type of an attitude. That everything here is totally in my Haksa. It's all totally in if I was Makatza Daita Minei. And that's the attitude. It's tremendous nafkamin this. I'm going to talk about this. In the meantime, I want you to know the problem. I was going to say in the Halach that the Mishabura is telling you about the time, the reason why Chazal came along and answered it's not muksa. It's not that it was a muksa. It's not mitzad his haksas das and whatever. They answered it because of this problem that they didn't want people trading around and touching kelim on Shabbos because they'll come to do isurim and everything. That's the reason why they asked it. And that's why Rabbi Shimon could agree. And that's why it might have different rules, because that's the reason. But now, when you're in the sugya, when you're in Kishmat, it was the geder that they gave it. They gave it a geder of like a half a muksa. And that's what they did now. That's like the time of the Quran, the time of the reason why Chazal asked it. And then there's the geder. What did they say? They said that the geder is going to be, we gave it like a din of like a chatzi muksa, half a muksa. And therefore, now we're going to have to see that it's only mutter that's from a kaimai, it's not also the gamay, whatever. And because it's a little bit difficult. I find it difficult. It means that the reason is that, but the aksas das is now whenever I'm going to figure out any item, I always have to look at the aksas das. It's difficult. I don't live it. I'd rather leave it shared and say something weird. And in the meantime, it's something weird. In the meantime, it's something weird. Okay, so we'll leave it in the meantime. God, sorry? What? Yeah, so, I'll give you an example. Rabbi said, what's the halacha on this shayla? What's halacha? Which is that same. What's halacha? Is it taka basis? Does a kishmat list make a basis? Right? So we would have to believe that according to the Mishabura, yes, whether you understand it or not, but he calls it Aksel. He said the Aruch HaShulchan in Siman Shin Yud Sif Tes, the Aruch HaShulchan says yes. So say that there's no Mishabura about this, but the Aruch HaShulchan says yes. And again, when there's no Mishabura, versteht we do like the Aruch HaShulchan. I mean, it's partially yours. And there's the Aruch HaShulchan in a different Aruch HaShulchan. The Gabe the Migu, so the Gabe the Migu, so that is a Rav Moshe. We say Migu Diskatzai. So they asked that Shiloh to the greatest guy who lived in the last 50 years. And Moshe says, 60 years? He's Lamed. He says, Klisha Malach Taliyasir the Misparik B'Shabbos. There's a Klisha Malach Taliyasir that fell apart. I was trying to think of a case. Maybe I have a case. A Klisha Malach Taliyasir that fell apart on Shabbos. No. Now the other halakim you could use for Dvarim Mutar. A good example? What? Maybe, like a back and what? Battery operated toy. The Ramosh has a sheet that they're miyuchat for kids. So they're Klisha Malach Taliyasir anyway. Anybody have an example? What? And now you'll use that scissor as a knife. Okay, but that's weird. Like something, like more normal. I'm sure there's cases if we think about it. That's really normal things. Right. Okay, anyways. So they asked Moshe, let's say, like the car breaks down. and now you just want to take out the seat. No, let's say the looters, they got to the car on Shabbos. No, it's not bad. It's right. That's not a bad case. Let's say the looters came on Shabbos, right? The bad guys, right? They came on Shabbos, and now what could you do? They took off the roof, right? They ate the steering wheel, and then there's the seat. There's the seat. So now that seat was attached to the car, and now you want to know what's the different seats? Can we just like take the seat and just like bring it in from the we don't want the looters to get the seat. You see the looters over there, and you see they're running away, right? But you see they're coming back now for the seat. So you're allowed to run and get the seat in order to save the seat from the angry looters. You got the case? Yeah, it's a normal case. That's a bit more normal than what you were saying. Right? So they asked the child, so what should it be told you? That's a shayla. Migu diskat side. That's not much shayla. Migu diskat side benishmashes. It's a klish not the benishmashes. So we would have thought that if you ask this kasha to the goyim, we'd say, "Give out there, go take the seat, save the seat." If you ask the mitzvah, save the seat. The Mishabura don't know what to do with the Shulchan. He tells you, it's called Ramosha Feinstein. His lesson is Kikol Muksa Vamrina Nigu Diskatsai. So the king. So all my fakiras and all my rayas, Moshe knew the guy. Moshe knew the guy. Moshe was the guy. Right? Moshe knew the guy, and I don't know. So it's something I want you all to digest and feel my pain. We did this a few days ago, and then I came back the next day and spoke all about that. Maybe something will happen between now and Shabbos and Sunday, and we'll have something to say over here, but it's very, very difficult. This is number one. Number two is Rabbi Spira brought down a car. Spira brought down a car, and he assumes that a car is a Kli Shemalachta Yis. He assumes a car is a Kli Shemalachta Yis. Now, the Maisa, when it comes to a car, so yesterday, remember I told you the Kloisenbergers in Kufnun Aleph, and I made a mistake. It was a Kufman Ches. I was wondering what's a Kufman Aleph, because in my brain I had the 151st Shua. So I looked up in the Divrei Yatzib, and he talks about a car. And he discusses the car Kli Shemalachta Isser. And he says over there that a car is not a Kli Shemalachta Isser. It's Muksa Machmas Ches Lo Yikis. So it's a car costs thousands and thousands of rubles. I'm doing it sounds. A car costs thousands and thousands of rubles. And what are you talking about? The car's a Chsar Kiss, and therefore you can't move her. Not a Kufay. Not so what's the nafkamina of a car? Nafkamina is like this. Let's say, especially in those days, in the tight, in those days there was no light in the car, right? Or today you could turn off the light in the car, whatever. But let's say there was no light in the car, and now you left in the car. You left the Kallus for Shabbos. It's a terrible mazel. No? You left the challah. So your wife says, "Where's the challah? Where's the challah?" You come into the house, even worse. You come in, where's the challah? The malachim, they're not going to come and everything, right? Or they're going to start giving curses. No, you come in. It says that if the challahs are on the table, so the good malach says to the bad malach says, the good malach says to the bad malach, it should be like this next Shabbos. Gemara Shabbos Daf Kuf Yitzchas. And if the challahs aren't on the table, so the bad malach says, it should be like this next Shabbos. So you're walking toward the house, and your wife says, "Don't come in. Don't come in. The challahs aren't on the table." So instead of coming out, put the challahs on the table, you tell her. So she says, "Well, what do you want? There's no challahs. You were supposed to buy challahs and you didn't buy challahs." Of course I bought challahs. What do you mean? Okay. And he forgot them inside his Porsche. Right? He has a Porsche. And he forgot the challahs. All the Porsches in the world won't help you if the challahs are inside. Right? The Porsche is not a mitzvah device, the challah is. So he says, "Okay, I'll just go into the car." She said, "Well, you're crazy. There's a light on in the car. What are you, a guy? What are you?" He says, "No, I turn off the light before Shabbos in the Porsche." "Why do you turn off the light in the car? Why do you turn the light off in the Porsche before Shabbos?" Look, sometimes I like to just like sit in the car. The Porsche. I like to sit in the car. So sometimes I just sit in the car. What? I didn't notice much. Yeah, but the light's off. So he says, "I'll just go to the car and I'll open up the door." Goes to the car. She says, "What are you, crazy? It's a Chesrin Kiss. This car is a Porsche." A Porsche. It's a Chesrin Kiss. What? To open the door? That's a Chesrin Kiss. What's the Chesrin Kiss? I mean, maybe, so the different Yatziv, the Kloisenberger, maybe he was talking about a Porsche. They say, "I got Porsche." Maybe you're so careful with it and you don't do anything with the car for that matter. I mean, if you have a car and you don't drive at all, you don't use it at all, you just have it as but this guy you see even he just like hangs out. So what? A Chesrin Kiss is something that I don't use at all. I'm so careful with it, and this we have to work on here. We have to work on here. I mean, my oven I also put it in a special place, and I don't move my oven because you don't want to move around the oven, besides the fact that you don't have a place to put the oven. But you also don't want moving around the oven. You want to move around the oven, it can break, it can this, you start moving around the oven. Is that a chesron kiss? Is that a chesron kiss? Chesron kiss is something more like we find, like, let's say, Chazal talked about a shechita knife, maybe a scalpel, maybe a mila knife, maybe we'll see soon, you could have a very expensive phone that he's very, very careful with, or something of that nature, etc. Right? How do we look at an oven door? How do we look at a washing machine door? Right? First of all, do I look at it as a separate entity from the chefza, and I could look at the door itself? Right? Let's talk about a regular car for a moment. Right? Let's talk about a regular car for a moment. An oven door. Is that a chesron kiss? Is that something that, I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm in the kitchen and I need to take things and place them all over the kitchen, like plates I'm serving. So I'll open up the oven door and I'll put something on the oven door, right? Nobody will think twice about doing such a thing, right? You'll open up the oven door. Let's say you need to put out platters or something, right? And you're running out of counter space. So just look, you open up the oven door, you put one on the tray of the oven, you put one on the floor of the door. You'll use it for other things, even not for its intended purpose, which is cooking. So we all agree that an oven is not considered a chesron kiss. It's not something I would think it's twice. You have a phone, which is a very expensive phone. You're not going to go necessarily and use it to place things on. Well, now we'll talk examples. Obviously, when we get to chesron kiss, we can get to chesron kiss. A washing machine door. You'll think twice. If you need to put something and lean it against the washing machine door, you're going to do it, right? So now it could be. Maybe my example of a Porsche. Maybe that's what the Kloisenberg was talking about. And maybe the Chuba was written 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And maybe every car, people were mom so careful with the door, mom so careful. Maybe, I don't know. Right? But the Maisa, today, you have your car door. You're absolutely so careful with it. You won't use it for anything else. Will you lean against your car? Will you lean against the car? Yeah, you're leaning against the car. That's a shemesh of muksa. It's a shemesh of the item. I'm saying you're sitting on the muksa. Sitting on the muksa, even if you don't move it, but we're trying to figure out, do you use the item for something else than its intended purpose? Well, what else can I use a car for besides its intended purpose? Anybody know? What? Sorry? So will I put a coffee on top? So it's true, maybe a Porsche. Maybe you won't take your coffee and put it on top of the Porsche. Right? Maybe you won't. I don't know. What do you do? That was for myself. I don't know. Right? I don't know. So I'm not convinced. that such a thing should be considered a muktzah machas chesron kiss. Right? That's a tremendous enough community. What else could you do with the door of the car? What else? What? Anything else you think of? You got nothing? What? Oh, so what about the car itself? Is the car a chesron kiss? What else do I do with the car? You know what I do with my car? Who sees me every day in my car when you guys come in? What do I do with my car? Right? My car is a base medrash, right? Some people's cars are base Knesset, right? My car is a base medrash. My car is a dining room. My car is a living room, right? My car is sometimes a bedroom, right? I definitely will take a rest over there and a nap over there, right? My car has, how do you think I get all beautiful like this? What do you think? You think it's easy looking like this? What do you think? What do you think? My car's a powder room, thank you, right? None of you ever saw me with my hat brush over there before I come in. You never saw me with that, right? My car is an optical, is a changing room. Right? My car's a changing room. I change the glasses in the car, right? My car is right. My car is a storage. I got svarim in the back. I got books in the back. My car is a publishing company. It's a Feldheim's warehouse, right? And my car. So is my car a muktzah machas chesron kiss? No, I think my car is maybe klisha machal heter. I think my car is maybe. What do I do in my car? I do more Ateirim in my car. I sit in my car. I relax in my car. Right? I love my car. Right? And it's, what? Yeah, that one I did love. Yeah. Okay. So the Minchas Yitzchak in Chelik Ches and Simchot Beis, he says, a machine car does a klisha malachta li'eser. He said, does a klisha malachta li'eser. Why is it klisha malachta li'eser? What? The Ber Moshe, the Debetziner, and Aleph Chavav, he says it's a Kli Shema Kallus, and therefore you're allowed to move the door from the car, which means technically I have the Kallus inside the car. Maybe the Porsche we could talk about, but I have the Kallus inside the car. I open the door. Why would I be allowed to open up the door? What's that? Kli Shema Kallus. The light is off, obviously. If the light's not off, game over. Right? But what? So why am I allowed to open up the door? Sorry, what? Because it's blocking my entrance to get into the car. Right now, I open the door. I take out the Kallus. Can I close the door? Can I close the door? Let's try and figure this out. Can I close the door? Well, I maybe. What do you mean? I want to protect what? I want to protect my office. What is my office in the car there? What's the seat of a car? Wait, let's say better. I have in the car Svarim. Right? You know, the first thing the looters are doing is they're going for the Svarim. Right? Yeah. What else do I have in the car? I have the pump in my car. I have a hat. I keep my hat in the car. I had a hat box in the car. I got Svarim in the car. Right? I keep an umbrella. Well, the umbrellas are I keep in my car. I got scarves in my car. I got masks in my car. Right? Everybody's car's got masks, right? I got masks in my car. I got other pairs of glasses in my car. I have sunglasses in my car, right? So now when I'm closing the door, what am I doing? I'm doing it to protect Zvar Mamutar. What's that called when I close the door now? Sarachla. Sarguf, I'm using the door as a shield. This is what the Debetzina says. The Debetzina, the Ber Moshe. He says, though, but don't do it. He says, unless it's mamish like in your garage and no one sees. He says, the dust is a dover tamua l'Rabbi. He says, the dust is very weird. There you are, in just one moment. There you are in Borough Park. There you are in the 13th Avenue or 14th Avenue, 53rd, and you open up the door. What are you doing? Right? What are you doing? You open up the door, you take out the Kallus, you close the door. Right? So Dabra Tamur the Rabbi, we find such a sugya in Shas. And I find even in the Mishabur, he talks about not making Abdullah, even though technically you're not making Abdullah after Plag, obviously you don't take an Aish, but you're not making Abdullah after Plag. He says, don't do it. You know why? This is a Dabra Tamur the Rabbi. So this is Adkan, what I was going to say. Just one moment. Akupanim, comes again the going of Moshe. This is, I would have ended the shir here. Now, Maisa, so Bakr is going to call you and he's going to say, look, I'm going to Meron for Shabbos. Why is he going to Meron for Shabbos? Why would he go to Meron for Shabbos? Why would he do that? Well, like Boimer, what does that have to do? Shabbos is not like Boimer, right? Why does he want to go for like Boimer? Why would he want to go to Meron? What? Ben Zman. So there he is on Ben Zman. So he rents a car, and he asks him, where are you going to sleep? So he says, I'm not like these Bacham, he's like, it's a little bit of a fine schmecker type of guy. I'm not into, with the tents and whatever, it's not my thing. There's that one Bacher, he comes there to stroll, it's kind of like a backpack with a tent, and a sleeping bag. You can take mine, Where are you going to? I'll sleep in the car. So he wants to know, can he sleep in the car? So this was the Shiloh that a Bacher asked me, and it wasn't Ben Zman. He asked me 2 years ago, this Shiloh wants to know, can I go for Shabbos to there, and I'll sleep in my car? Right? I'll turn off the light for Shteitza, and how are you going to get in and out? How are you going to get out? So he says, Maisa, if you tell me I have to leave open the doors, I'll leave open the door the whole entire Shabbos, because who cares who's over there? He's in some who knows what. You leave it open. He said that the Maisa Nachal is going to want to close the door. He's going to close the door. Is he going to be allowed to close it? So the Ber Moshe would tell him, look, to open up the door, that's the taka, you got to get out. So that's, to close the door, he has inside there. He's got all his things there. He's got all his Shabbos food there. He's got his what else is there? Well, no, I'm saying, let's say he goes to shul or whatever, right? So he has in there, he has his food in there, he has grieving in there, he has all those things. But the Ber Moshe says, you got to go and find like some garage somewhere or something, because it's a Davar Tamur Rabbi. It's a Davar Tamur Rabbi, right? So you say, but in Meron, everything goes, right? That doesn't work like that. So the Davar Tamur Rabbi, and that's what you come out, right? But then you read Moshe, because Moshe, and then you get like a whole different connect to it. For Moshe, it says like this in Heichav Aleph. Not in the wrong one. Heichav Aleph Yud Aleph. The wrong truth. Heichav Aleph Yud Aleph. Listen to Moshe. Hayim mutter leftayach delet mechaynis Shabbos. Could you open the car door on Shabbos? Hayanira dim lake Marasayan. Now I want to explain this to Moshe. Moshe says, first of all, you have to know if there's Marasayan. If there's Marasayan. What's up shot the Marasayan over here? It's interesting for Moshe. What's the Marasayan? I remember Moshe has a klal. Moshe says the Marasayan means, it's a klal gadol that Moshe tells, a famous trooper from Moshe. Moshe said that Marasayan means, not like, we think, the Welt is Marasayan. It says, if you don't know halacha, I'm not responsible. Okay, so if you see me taking a hammer on Shabbos and going over and opening the window in an oven where it's not buying it, like prying open this machsan window over here, which is mutter. And the guy says, look, he's taking a hammer, he's crazy, he's a guy, he's a Russian, he's a Zionist. It's not my fault you don't know the halacha. Right? And hammer is a klishmak al yeser. It's mutter l'tzarech mekayim. He's going to be chayshid me that I'm doing this and I'm doing that and whatever. And he doesn't know the halacha. He doesn't know that you're allowed to move moksel l'tzarech from mekayim. It's not my fault. Go learn the halacha. The only time we say marasayim is when it looks like I'm doing this. What looks like I'm doing this? The examples of Chazal where he has something that looks like meat and something that looks like milk, and he puts it together. Hope you know that this meat is parav or this milk is parav. So then. That is not the shot that the fellow doesn't know the halacha. The fellow knows the halacha. He knows only meat and milk are also, but he doesn't know the mitzias. And you're making, so what's up here? What's Moshe mean by a car that there's going to be marasayim by opening up a door? What does it mean? What? Like? Rama? And that's it. What? The light? The light in the car. That's interesting shot. That's interesting shot. That's interesting shot. That's interesting shot. The only thing is that this tshuva was written in 1981. Right? In 1981, game over. I remember 1981. She's gonna get cars. You had the car, got the lift, and so I bring you the biggest raya. The biggest riot that is because in this tshuva, Moshe doesn't say all the tshuva is right. For shtei tzach, you have to make sure the light's not on, right? Moshe doesn't even say that. He says, you see that wasn't the issue with the light. That would have been a nice try. But Akapanim. So what's the Marasayan? So I have two malachim over here in Moshe. One malach is that Moshe just, this is what I'm related to. I don't think Moshe means that Moshe said, and was written down by, like I mentioned before, by Rabbi, right? I don't think Ramoshe, when he said the word Marasayan over here, he was saying it like the English word, the way we say Marasayan. I was like, you gotta be careful, no Marasayan. I think he means like the Moshe. You have to make sure that this isn't crazy, outrageous. You're in the middle of the street and people say, what do you do? Marasayan. It's something that is going to bring the eye to look at. That's one possible shot. It's probably the MS. And he just told it to Rabbi. If he would have wrote it over here, maybe he would have written it differently. I don't know. But he meant, it can't be honestly a Marasayan. It could be he means something else. It could be maybe Moshe means that there's a real Marasayan. I don't know. Maybe Moshe means that, people see you going into a car. I'm not the subject. I explained to you my problem. My problem is why is the entire Hilchos Muktzah that we're learning not Marasayan? Every single time you see me using anything, you see me moving my cell phone on Shabbos because because I don't want the alarm to go off and wake up my wife. Just hold on, because I'm at the end of the show. Let's say, I got up at let's say 7 o'clock, and the alarm is going to go off at 7:15. Right? Sorry, 9 o'clock, right? And the alarm is going to go off at 9:15, right? So, no, it's not gracious 8:15, and then I get up at 8:15, and then the alarm is going to go off at 8:30, right? So now I quickly want to take this phone, and I quickly want to bring it into the other room and cover it with the garden, and I don't know what, so it doesn't go up. What's that? It's a kli shemalach l'yeser l'tzarech t'mokim. The guy t'mokim is gestert from this. So you're gonna be allowed to do that because Marasayan. And we ask a chedra chadarim, right? I'm not going to answer questions on the other shit because it's really over. I say in the chumash, but I'll answer it. So the Maisa, on every single book in the world, to say Marasayan. What's this guy doing? He's holding his cell phone. I don't know if it's going to go off, then I get right. That's why I gave this example where it's not going off, and that's mutter. That's a good example of a kli shemat al yetzer. It's going to ruin the market, and therefore I'm allowed to take it out. So you don't say Marasayan when it comes to funds. So I'm like that Moshe over here, and why he needs the one guy that doesn't know the halacha. He doesn't know the halacha, so too bad. That's his problem. That's not Marasayan. That's Moshe himself. So I think Moshe doesn't need that over here. I think he needs to move about it. Okay, comes again going, and he says like this. Okay, where there's no issue of things looking weird, which a lot of times it is going to look weird. right? Maybe you're in the car, it's not this is nishkin matzah. So he says, so it's mutter to open up the door of the car. You're allowed to go into the car and take out the challah. This is Rabbi Nissim, this is what I mean. He should have said, make sure the light's off or whatever. He doesn't even warn. No, Gavaldi. In parentheses, which Moshe didn't know, right? It didn't even come from the tshuva. Whenever you see parentheses in Chelik Ches, it was added by the publisher, right? I think that's a signable, right? That it was added by the editor, right? And that's what he writes in that done. That all the parentheses. So he writes, obviously it's not turning on the light. So again, 1981, Moshe didn't. So you see, he wasn't dealing with that. So then he writes, Venira Shemut the Listor. And then afterwards you can close the door. He closes the door. Says Moshe, why? Because etzim mechanit einay moksa. Car's not moksa. That's cool. The car's not moksa. Here, this we went from Chazar Kes to Malach Eliezer to einay moksa. Says why? The Keshiva Chatzeroi. Doesn't the Ramosha? He says because when it's in your Chatzer, regilin la'ashir sham tvarim. It's a normal place that you store things in your car. Came in Shumakim Shomer B'Chatzeroi because it's something that's very well protected in your backyard. The Vadai Harbe Inchi Oisim came. When we time said, Avim Yistam and Makim Shitam Inchi. Ain't lesser than Makim Shalayo, even though, and this is the right to what we said, even though if you're going to be on the street and do it, it's going to be something strange to people. You tumble in GC means like the Bear Maisha. But who cares? That's all in the street. But in your backyard where nobody's around, sometimes people have neighbors, the neighbors, and they're looking down, and they're the ones that when there's going to be shtuchim for the children and us, they're waiting to tell all the different things, and those, I told them you got went into a car on Shabbos. Is a good like goyim, with inflation goyim. So he says, "Ve'enai kol davar aser." You should say lesser mamish. He says, then why don't we make an issue of a real marasign? He says, that's not a real marasign. What is Rashi saying? He says a car is a cliche It's you're allowed to close it. You don't have to come up with these eight salach of putting things in the car and closing it. And Rashi says because a car is not muksa. Because what's Rashi mean over here? What do you mean you store things in the car? Now I don't know. Rashi didn't drive, right? Rashi was driven around. Maybe he was driven around in some. Yeshiva car, I don't know everything there, the Yeshiva car, but it was driven around in some old Yeshiva car. It had like broomsticks in the back, and it had like old hats, and and it had like the concept, and all types of Sachen, right? And Rashi says the cars I've been in, I don't know exactly what Rashi means. He says. The way it's written here again, this isn't the truth from Rashi. So we have to assume that he told Rabbi Badner that a car is not muksa. And the explanation here, we could be methodic a little bit exactly. He told him, he said, there's things in the car, So when the writer was writing, he said, there's people, they store things in the car. I don't know if that's what Moshe said. I think Moshe probably said something of that, but we're saying. Moshe said a car, what makes a car cliche not yes, sir? What? The inner function of a car? A car stores items, a car, is something that you leave things in. It's a very normal usage. Now, let's go back a step. Now that Moshe gave us a license, that's cute. Now that Moshe gave us a license to expand the kula a little bit, to not be so insultive. So I don't know. Let's say you talk in your car, you sit in your car, you hang out in your car, you relax in your car. What's called talking on the phone in the car? I use the seat to talk on the phone. That's like the computer chair, right? That's not like, to do an isser. That's like the computer chair that we said, of course so I sit in my car, I rest in my car, I hang out in my car. A lot of people are like this. A lot of people are like this. I'm not the only one, okay? What? Sorry? Men are like this. He says men are like this, right? But today there's a lot of ladies that are like men. So, no, I don't mean that. I mean, that you know what I mean, right? There's a lot of people that they sit in the car. So I don't know. Now, I had to say to Kalisha there. Well, what's the longest to say not like this? This versteht sich is related. This is related to all the who are shedding army, right? But when you're buying a car, when you're buying a car, versteht sich the tachlis of the seat and the tachlis of the wheels and the tachlis of everything is for the one big magama is to get me from point A to point B. Right? There's no question, right? And this gets reminiscent of all the shadows we spoke about in a path, right? And here, we saw about a gun.
What makes the fear of a gun? Rabbi Yasha told us a gun is a klishmakal yeser. The fear, yeah, versteht. That's all nivshach from the ikar. So here, everything here is tafel to the ikar purpose of a car. So what it says here in Ramosha, I don't know. It's hard to understand. I don't know. In other words, if Ramosha was talking about some Yenet site and see is that they would actually leave things and attack and store things in the car and whatever, people would buy a car just to storage that tichinich, right? But I don't know. I definitely hear it enough. I definitely hear it enough to say it's not a muksa machmas chesron kiss. If a zay fight is a muksa. If a zay fight, we're not going to say that it's a muksa machmas chesron kiss. To say it's according to Moshe, but after Sichen, you don't have to look for aces to close the door of the car. You know why you're allowed to close the door of the car? Because the Klisha Mantel you have there, right? Can I say, Stam, you're allowed to close the car door? I'm nervous because even though, what are you doing? You're doing it to protect the seat. But like we said, the seat might be tough to the whole Chetza. And the whole Chetza is a Klisha Mantel, yes, sir. So you're doing it to protect the seat. So would it help to take a safer and put it into the car? And then close the door? I'm not convinced. Because it's not a real soirech. When we say a ramas mutter, it's a ramas mutter if you show it that you be'emes have that soirech. I'm not convinced. It's not 100% sure. We have to talk about a ramas next to it. But it could be that might be shtukleitz. I'll take a safer, I'll put it inside the car. And now I want my safer to be. Let's say I'll do it in a real way. I'll be machlit that from now on I'm going to learn 2 halachas of shmir salashim every single time I drive. So I really do want the safer in the car. Right? So now it's a real thing. I really do want the safe in the car. And I really do want to close the door because I'm afraid that cats are going to come and they could, they also want to learn Shmir Zalashim. Right? I'm not interested in going all over my and I'm not interested in some neighbor in hoodlum who's going to come and sit in the car, take the book and throw it. I'm not interested in that. So it's also part of my cheshbon. I'm trying to save the thing. So that is what you would do. And then when you're closing the door, what's that called? That's a tzarech. Tzarech what? So good fun because I'm using the door to shield the safer. This is a chayrim. This is a chayrim. My sayes is shy the once during missing Kallus, and he told me a car is a klisha malachta le'isser, and all the items in the car, meaning the seat and that, it's all bottled in the car. And I told him I sit there in my car and I prepare shirim in my car and everything, and he just smiled and he said, "That's a klisha malachta is. That's a klisha malachta." But it wasn't the chesron case, and I got it, I got to hear that. I do hear that now. Hey, it got very late. Very late time. Oh, I have to say, just what are you going to do? Oh, that's all right. Oh, it's never happened. Never go over. Wow. All right, so let's, all right, we'll continue now. Let's say. Now, I just we take this. Yeah. Okay, so I welcome all the listeners in Tyranny Time to Shabbat Kodesh for Parshas Vayera. I'm going to focus not on Avraham Avinu, not on Sarah Imenu, not on Yitzchak not even on Yishmael. Focus on light. Focus on light for me. Light's a very interesting parsha. Light. He himself is a very interesting parsha. You study light a little bit, and I think many of us, would aspire to the ma'asim of light. Light was machnis orchim in a way that I don't think most of us are going to do. And they have all different roots. And what's the pshat? You see that light did achnas orchim, and Avraham Avinu did achnas orchim. And they have all different roots to explain the difference between Avraham and light. Oh yeah, Avraham, he does achnas orchim. He runs after the malach, and he's looking. He's sick. He's on the 3rd day of the. He's 100 years old and he doesn't suffice and he wants to do more. He gives me al hager, and light doesn't do that. Okay, and halavai bayas, halavai bayas. So that's the nekuda. That's the nekuda. So the light is better than all of us. Light allows people to come into his house that he never met before, that he never saw before. It's a ganze machnes organ. They say different lumdis. They say he's not a machnes organ. He's a makabel organ. You know, if the organ comes, he takes them. But he's not machnes organ. Doesn't go out of his way. And a lot of us are the same way. I'm not saying if it's good or bad, but Rabbi side to go and say that that's the whole issue of light. That's the whole issue of light. And then and you know that Chazal that is not impressed with light. Unimpressed with light. Light. He's baking matzahs with the shets that he do them and the shets the chumras. Rashi brings down. There was light, as I have from a being of Berkut test. Rashi brings down the Berkut test. I think in Pasuk Gimel. I think it was the Berkut test. Pasuk Gimel. He's most in nefesh v'knesses oracle. He's most in nefesh for baking the matzahs. He says a shape matzahs mitzvah. Right? Light went with Avram Avinu. Light left behind Zayn. He left behind Terach. Right? He was saying Kaddish that year for Haran. He left. He left the whole entire world. He left also. He also left. He also had the Rav Ba'aretz and everything. You know, light is a very, very difficult. Yeah, it's a shady. It's a shady. Light is. We know that there's a problem with light. Like the last scene in the Torah that we ever have of light, which is our last picture of light, is this drunken buffoon who does the most dreadful ma'aser, and my woman can't even be supper. It's so bad. And that's the last. He probably went on. We don't know what happened to Light afterward, right? About the Light woke up and found out what happened, and he went and got drunk again, right? He became a drunkard, and he rolled around the street, and then he used to come and say, you know, this is the matzah, and that was Light, right? What happened over here? What's the issue with Light? And Rashi in Perikid Gimel, Rashi when he talks about Light. He says that when Light was Vayisa Light, when Light separated from Avram, right, parted Light from Avram, it says over there, Light said, Yefshi, Avram, Yefshi, I don't want the Elokei Avram, I don't want God, I don't want Avram, What's with Light? Light is such a confusing parsha. I think what bothers me the most is that we see their good ma'asim with Light. There's achnasas orchim with Light. And so now let me explain to you what's the parsha with Light. The parsha with Light is Hagufa. That's Hagufa. The parsha is Light is someone that does achnasas orchim. He does achnasas orchim. That's the real answer. What's the difference? They all want to know. What's the difference between achnasas orchim of Avraham and the achnasas orchim of Light? I don't have a reason to believe from the Psukim in the Torah and from Rashi that there was a difference. Fakert Rashi says that he learned from Avram Avinu. And that, you know, they all say, well, he was a copycat of Chalavai by us, that we should also copy Gedolim and Tzaddikim. That's what we do. So I don't have any reason to believe that Light Achnasas Orchim wasn't a par excellence, that he was on a high madrega. Light did the right thing. Light had shens the matzahs. Light had brisker matzahs. I have no reason to believe not like that. But Hagufa is the kasha of Light. You do ma'asim of a Baal Chesed. You do ma'asim mitzvah. You do ma'asim of Chesed. You do ma'asim of Achnasas Orchim on the level of Avram Avinu, and you live in Stein. And not only you live in Stein. Not Stein. Stein is like, you know, that's the Aviyah voice Atuma by Avram Avinu, where it was the whole chinuch of Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu was the Amelach Chesed, and he was coming Lafukei Stein, and they were coming Lafukei Avram Avinu, the Medrash says. They were coming Lafukei. They made legalized laws. They made all types of anhagis against Chesed. Here you have me, I do Chesed. And I live Hagufa. Hagufa, you're such a steer. Light, on that day, it always bothered me this. On that day, Light became a Supreme Court justice. Right? A Democratic one. Right? On that day, Light became a Supreme Court justice. You know that? It says on that day he was voted to be the Supreme Court justice of Stein. So on that day, Peltic of Meiser, Light lived in there for many years already. He's been living there. The day that they destroyed Stein, the Rebbeinu Shalom destroyed Stein, was the day that Light became the judge. You have a person who's such an unbelievable steer. That he can do chesed, he can do matzahs, and he can be a judge in Stein. Right? He can do chesed, he can do matzahs, and he can be a judge, and he can implement their laws. And somebody's going to walk in, and he's going to talk up, you're a machnas orchim, you know that's illegal over here, and he's going to send him in jail, they're going to eat him. Right? That's an unbelievable steer. That's the time I'm like, because you do achnasas orchim, that's why there's a time I'm like. That's the difference between Avram and Avram Avinu. It became his machloek. Avram Avinu doesn't live in a stira. You know, you see this all over the place, as I say. You see, you have Esav. Esav on that day, he was even over his Zor, he's covered be'ikr. Covered be'ikr. And Chazal say, he's mevazah the avodah. No, the person was covered be'ikr, he's mevazah the avodah. And on that same day, what's Esav crying for? The bracha from a tzaddik. Ich will the bracha from a tzaddik, from gegangen, mit Streimel, mit Bergischer, mit weißen Saken. Ja, ich will the bracha from a tzaddik. I need the bracha from the Heilige Rebbe. Koirach, jawohl, Koirach's Rebbe, 250 men, they're there. Let's get Moshe, Beino Moshe, Einoi Emes, the Torah says, Einoi Emes, they hate God, they hate Moshe, they hate everything that's good, all of a sudden, Oyin Ben Pellet's wife, she's sitting outside over there in the tent, she's throwing like 2 or 3 fingerlach of hair. Who are all these tzaddikim? They turn the other way, get out, geschwiegen, get out, right? Big tzaddikim. These are people that were machmer and kalakat, Steven. People, what's the answer? How can it be times? He can be a total and utter stealer. A total utter stealer. I remember once, this my total utter stealer. You could be living a total and utter stealer. There's a person, there's a big guy asking. He helps people in the medical field, in the medical world, and his wife came to complain by Rav Scheinberg. And Scheinberg, I think it was the reason Rav Scheinberg got Rav Scheinberg, the person came into Rav Scheinberg. Unbeknownst, it was like a few months later, Rav Scheinberg, Shomer as a daughter, that the wife came to complain. So a few months later, so when the person came, he came to talk to Rav Scheinberg about a certain issue. So Scheinberg told him, after they were finished, he told him he was a Mechudik person. He said, your wife is sick. Well, what do you say? Scheinberg said things that were scary. Right? Scheinberg, I remember once Scheinberg, there was a lady that the husband came in and said that you have to daven, that it would be very bad because if they go section, she'll never be having more children. So Scheinberg, he wouldn't talk to the guy, he wouldn't listen to the guy, and he kept saying, it's fine, she had the baby already. And the guy was there saying, Rebbe, no, she's in the labor room, screaming in his ear, the poor guy. Rebbe, she's in the labor room. She's got the baby's born already. He walked out, the baby's born already. Scheinberg said things, that's how it went. Right? So here he is, he comes to ask him, and he says, your wife is sick, everybody got nervous, right? He said, well, what does Scheinberg know? What do you mean? I don't know this, right? He says, you help sick people. So pretend that she's sick. With a big smile on his face, right? You help sick people, so pretend that she's sick, and then you'll help your wife. Steers. You can live a life of steers. You can have a person, he's learning Baba Basra, and there he is, he's walking out of the base medrash, and he's looking in the window of every other person. You have a person, he's learning Baba Kama, and then, there he is, he's learning Baba Kama, he takes the pen from the person next to him, doesn't answer, just uses the pen, I'll buy that. You have a person, he's learning Baba Mitzvah. You got this. A person, he's mamish, every 3 minutes he learns Baba Mitzvah. His business is riddled with this, riddled with, it's a total steer, a total steer. A person, while he's learning the Shmir Saloshin, he's telling him to Hashem Sinayis, right? But not during that hour a day that he doesn't talk Shahar. That's finished, right? You can have a person living a total steer. And what's the answer? Because when it does not come the mahus, Avraham Avinu, the meisim that he did, they became his mahus. You have another person, he does meisim. When a person just does meisim, then he's a total and utter. And that's why you have a light. You can have a light, he's doing the meisim, he's doing all these things. What happens to light? Once already, the world falls apart. What happens on that day when the world falls apart? So then light, it's not his mahus. He's not the etzim. He didn't create a gavra. He doesn't have an identity. So when the world fell apart, light became a drunken buffoon. Avraham Avinu, the world fell apart on Avraham Avinu 10 times. Then it's Yonis. What does Avraham Avinu get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger? Because those meisim, they shaped him, they gave him an identity, they gave him a mahus. Now there was a chussid by there was somebody who was he was in the Labor Party. He's Tajrut. That was like in those days. Today they have much bigger anti-Semites. These are only the forefathers of them. And and he was quite not such a big tzaddik, not such a small Russian. And he was one of the leaders of the Labor Party about 60 years ago. And he was once on the beach in Tel Aviv, for the story we'll say on Kippur, and he was on the beach and he got into a whirlpool and he was drowning. And the lifeguard came and the lifeguard saved him. Right? And afterward, it was all over the news there that while he was being saved, that the lifeguard said over that while he was being saved, he was much like for his life. He was and he was screaming, and he lochas there b'tshuva. And he lochas there b'tshuva. That's what he was screaming, right? So it became like a famous thing. It was like one of these things in the newspapers. And he lochas there b'tshuva. That was the kotara. The headline was, and he lochas there b'tshuva, right? So they asked him afterward, my high, what was like his, So you think, like I would think, that Pshat is like the Gemara in Erev. The Gemara in Erev, and the Gemara says that the Rishayim Afilu HaPischa Shel Dehenim, they don't do tshuva. Really, all the way at the end, they still don't do tshuva, right? So he had a different shot. This leader of the Histadrut of the Labour Party, his shot was like this. He said, "You should know that I come from Slonim. I come from Slonim. We also come from Slonim." I remember the socks, long days. I come from Slonim. He said, "I come from a shtetl based on Slonim." That means touchy. I come from Slonim. Said, I went off. I went over there, and we decided to come up to Eretz Yisrael to go and plant trees in Lebanon or whatever. And when I was leaving, my father said to me, "Mistama, we're never going to see each other again. Not in this world and not in the next world. We're parting forever." So do me one last, dying wish before I sit shiva for you. Go to the Rebbe. Go to the Slonim Rebbe and get a bracha from the Rebbe. So he went to the Rebbe, like a dying wish. He took a kippah, he put on the kippah, and he went to the Rebbe. When he came into the Rebbe, he said the Rebbe knew who I was. The Rebbe remembered me. When I came to Ingol, the Rebbe verheard me. The Rebbe took a look at me, and the Rebbe said, "Du bist of unser. You're one of us. You're one of us. I see what you think you're trying to do. Aber darf ich wissen, du bist of unser. You're one of us. You have the same roots as us, and you're just like us. And you're not going to die without doing tshuva. So you're one of us." And that's it. I took the yarmulke, I threw it off, and I ran out of there. He said, so here I am. I'm drowning in the ocean. I'm drowning over there. And I said, the Rebbe's bracha, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. But I know that the second I do tshuva, that's when I die. Right? So I said, I'm not doing tshuva. And you see, Taka McQueen, you bend the bracha from the Rebbe because you see, I Taka lived. Right? You see, I Taka lived. I didn't die. It's a Pelletic Mesa. He Taka believes in the bracha from the Rebbe. He believes, how could you have such a koifer, such a Russian, such an happy curse, but he believes in the bracha of the Rebbe? What's the pshat? The pshat is, it's not a kasha. It's not a kasha. We live steers. We can live like this. We can live like this when we do meisim, and we even think sometimes a certain way, we act a certain way, but if it doesn't become my identity. Can we learning in Kailal? It's not a Ben Torah. Ben, what's Ben Torah? Ben means I'm the son. What's a son? A son is you look at that person and say, he's the son of so-and-so, because he looks like him. So he's the son of so-and-so. So when you see somebody's a Ben Torah, you say, he's the son of Torah, because he looks like Torah. It's the Shmektzach Torah. He doesn't just do meisim of Torah. He doesn't do just the actions from Torah. He becomes his malchus, he becomes an identity. And then with his difficulties and the world comes crashing down, does it become a drunk? Does it become a, the Chayes Rabbi says in the Hakdama, at the end of the Hakdama of Shai B'tachin, he says a story. I love the story. He says, it's a real Chayes Rabbi story. Whoever loves Chayes Rabbi knows what I mean. He writes over there that there was a person that went for a long trip to find the Parnassi. He had to leave behind his mishpach, he had to leave behind his chavusas, he had to leave behind his whole life and whatever. He went to find the Parnassi, he got to this African island, and he sees all these crazy people bowing to idols, bowing to Avodah Zarah. So he goes over to the Kohen and he says, Busha, you should be misbayish, you should be embarrassed from yourself. They're bowing to something that they're a day older than. What's a joke, a galechta, this is who they pray to. So the Kohen said, no, and ye, it's them, to who do you daven to? To who do you pray to? Me, I daven to Avinu Avarachman, I daven to Erev Hashem. He's the mashkiach, he's the mefarnes of the ganze Welt. That's who I daven to. He's the yachid, he's the aim, he's cook. Says, yeah, he's the mefarnes, he's the mashkiach. No, so he came in Azayfil, he had to come all the way here for Parnasa. What, he doesn't have Parnasa over there in your shtetl? You have to come all the way over here, you have to leave the chavusas, you have to leave the minyanim, you have to do this, and say, yeah. So it says over there, the chassid, the bachia, the chayes lavavis, he calls him the chassid. He says, he heard the musar, and he went back home. But what happened here? The realization of stirus. The realization, when a person comes to a realization that he's living stirus, he's living a stira. That's a very healthy thing. Come to that realization and change. person has to look into him. Where is it that I have these steers? I have so many steers. Or otherwise you're a light. Light, the haguf of the time on you light is that you are a machnas oirach. And you're a judge in Stein. You can live in Stein. You chose to go and live in Stein, the Mokim, which is the typical chesed in the world, but you do chesed. You do mitzvahs, you do ma'asim taiva. Steers. It's a terrible mahus. It's not a mahus. Just a yaima. You know, it's the place I think where it's most mitzvateh. It expresses itself in the last few days is that every Erev from Yid. It lives in the American soil, in good old USA, knows that what is every Erev from Yid, what's the Shabbos, and what's all the he has to vote, and he has to vote for us, upcorrect and Pashit, right? He has to vote for Trump, and it's Pashit, That's what every Erev Yid does, and every Erev Yid did it with a mitzvah, to try to help the Jewish people. That was the Shabbos that every Yid has to do. And they said it in the guise of a mitzvah, and then the guise of Torah, and the guise of this is the we have to do our shabbos to help Achenu Bnei Yisrael, the Kol Makam Shehem. Right? Now, what happens now? It's getting a little nervous out there, a little bit shitty. Have to change the diapers a few times over here. It's a little bit nervous. We don't know what's going to be. I don't think anybody knows. Right? I think you could probably in the stomach, you could still daven. Because that's a full fraud and that's a still does or whatever. So who knows what can happen? You can still daven for it, right? It's not even just but the Doilam's nervous, right? What are you nervous? It's like the same English that the Pasuk in Mishlei says in Perek Chavalef, Palgei Mayim Leif Melech B'Yad Hashem. Palgei Mayim, the ways of water, the ways that it flows. The lave of the melech, that's in the hand of Hashem. I'll call Asher Yachpoitz Yatenna. Whatever the Heilig of Hashem wants, whoever gets into office gets in. The same way that Trump was not an anti-Semitic character, that he is one, he cannot be one. Because the lave malachim is beyond. So we have to do Ishtadlis. But then when we come with Ishtadlis, the front gadol, this is what the Ratzon Hashem is, this is what you have to do. But then when then we're screaming, now's when you have to say Vashet. Now, if it won't work out like that, and I know what you're all thinking, but maybe we can still die. But are you davening or are you living the stira? Are you living with the attitude of packets? So we did our Shabbos, now it's not walking for a pachat. Listen to the words of the I hand over there the mountain, but over here I see I only have the Rabbi. Hinei leiv not only, but Hinei leiv hamelech b'ritzainu b'yad Hashem. He says, he can't do anything without the Rebbeinu Shleilam's Ratzon. He becomes a shliach of the Hashem. So you do your status for Shtetzach to make it. That's what always everything in life. You can say, so why do we have to do it? That's a status. But then he says, it makes sense. So over there, he explains it even stronger. In the Malbim, he says, he explains it here also very well. About if the Melech would do what he wants to do, right? Whatever Biden wants to do, Rabbi said, nothing to worry about. Because if the Melech would be Poel, it would be dangerous for the Yahweh. It would be dangerous for the people. So Kishmok says, he can't be in control of the people, only I could. You are allowed to be in control, that's how the Malbim explains. You can be in control of yourself. Because that's your own problem. But you can't be in control of the United States of America, which is in control of the God's of You can't do that. That's too much. I will not give shlita. That's the Shabbos pasuk. I will not give koyach to one person to rule the whole entire world. Amol, you have a Russia that comes in, who's told kulatachos is the upper Kallus, whatever. And there it was. That was a good example. But then you have something else. You have a Malach, you have a Moshe. So the Melech, the said, Leiv Malachim, Leiv HaMelech is the Yad Hashem. Leiv Malachim. So but if you live in the world of steers, we're so nervous now, we can't accept this person. But if you live Taka in the Rebbeinu Shleilam's hands, and you're not a person of steers, so I get my Shabbos, and we get right to now Leiv Malachim, the Yad Hashem. There's nothing to worry about. The Kallus, it's mamsh to Bella to think even not like that. It's mamsh, it's our tema. Now that's the same tema that light Ketaka be doing Achnasas Orchan and living in Sodom and implementing the rules that you can't do Achnasas. Steers. It's an introspection of this. Where do we live steers? Where does a comma that you live a steer? You don't exist. Obviously, there's levels and levels of this. A comma that you don't live steers, then you exist, then you have a mahus, then you have an identity, then you exist. Because if the mice aren't just external mice, then you become a different person. Okay, Shabbos for this. I'm sorry about today. Oh, that's how I'm going to join. I got to try and arrange that Sunday. We shouldn't have any problems. So,